I'm Daniel True of Stepping Stone Brewer, and this is Brewer to Brewer podcast from All About Beer. My guest today is Zahra Tabatabai of Back Home Beer in New York, and she is here for a conversation that goes beyond the brew house and into topics that matter to brewing professionals and curious beer drinkers. First, please visit allaboutbeer.com and follow on social media at allaboutbeer. And to support journalism in the beer space, check out allaboutbeer.com/support. We'll get into the conversation in just a moment, but first, this message.
Is your fermentation data still a mystery? Upgrade to Senos. Their in-tank sensors provide real-time predictive analytics so you can catch issues early, save your batches, and grow your profit margins. Brew smarter and scale your brewing operations at Senos.com. That's Sennos.com. And if you're going to the Craft Brewers Conference in April, get a free Senos demo and enter to win an iPad at their booth number 2106.
Hi, this is Tim Shasha from Berkeley Yeast. Our mission is to give brewers better tools that are affordable and easy to use. Our team has been developing Tropics yeast for nearly 10 years, and we just launched it in a dried format. This is a yeast strain with high thiol biotransformation activity, which means it's great for making tropical forward hazy IPAs. I'll tell you more about how it works later in the show, or you can check the show notes for our recent article called All About Thiols.
Malteurop has long been a pillar of North American malting, and they're growing to meet the needs of the modern brewer. Their brand new warehouse expansion at the Winona, Minnesota Malt House marks a new chapter in their commitment to service and reliability. With increased capacity and optimized logistics at the Winona hub, Malteurop is delivering the quality you expect with the speed you need. Discover the Malteurop difference at malteuropmaltingco.com.
Welcome, and I'm very pleased to have Zahra Tabatabai as my guest today. Zahra grew up within a family of immigrants. Her grandmother, aunts, uncles, and cousins all lived within a few city blocks. Stories about life back home were often told, including stories about her grandfather brewing beer in Shiraz, Iran. This inspired Zahra to dig deep into the history of beer making in Iran, discovering, to her surprise, that the earliest physical trace of beer actually dates back to present-day Iran. This motivated Zahra to explore the craft of beer making. With the help of her local homebrew shop, brewing books, and online videos, she began to experiment with different recipes. After a few years of tinkering, and brave friends/family tasting her recipes, Zahra is ready to share her beer with the community, beer inspired and influenced by her Persian Middle Eastern roots. Zahra earned her degree in business at the Georgia Institute of Technology in Atlanta, Georgia. Prior to founding Back Home Beer, Zahra worked as a news writer in both television and print. An avid animal lover, she has volunteered for a local dog rescue for many years and has fostered hundreds of pups before finding her forever homes. Zahra has lived in New York City for 21 years and currently resides in Brooklyn with her son, Milo. Yeah, that was pretty impressive. Welcome, Zahra.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. That was quite the intro.
Yeah, you've led a long life. So
Yeah, I was like, wow.
it was pretty obvious where the inspiration for the beer comes, but could you just take us back, like adding some details to the moment, the revelation of discovering your actually your own heritage in the beer and how that bloomed?
Yeah, I was home brewing just as a project because my grandfather used to make beer and I'd always heard stories about his beer making. And so my grandmother made a passing comment, like, I miss the taste of his beer. And so I started to just brew the beer at home, like you said, through home brewing classes, YouTube videos, a local homebrew club, things like that. But I didn't really know about the history of beer and beer making and fermentation in the region. And so that was a big surprise to me. I started to kind of look into it after, I've heard my whole life about him making beer, but I didn't realize how much further back it went. So when I
Mhm.
started to dig a little deeper, I discovered that an archaeologist from the Smithsonian had uncovered a vessel from the Zagros Mountains of Iran that contained the earliest chemical evidence of beer making, barley beer making specifically, what it is today. And I was like so shocked because obviously no one really associates the Middle East with alcohol. The connection's been lost, and it's mostly because of what the government is today. Um,
Hmm.
and so for me, I was like, wow, this is a history that has been lost. And as a people, you never want your history to be erased in that way. So I was like, if I didn't know this, there's no way other people, as an Iranian, I didn't know this. So there's no way other people know this. And that was a big part of my mission in bringing the beer to market was to kind of say, hey, this is a part of our history. And although it's been erased, it still exists. And I'm trying to make those connections again.
That is beautiful. Maybe some of your news writing experience came into play there, and with the like with the studiousness and the research,
Some of the what? Sorry, I didn't catch the first part.
like the studiousness, like you delve into something, and then suddenly one question answers your just turns into five more questions, and I guess you got kind of just stuck with it because of also your background in researching things.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I was really interested in that. And I really did do a deep dive into it and the history. And then also just about Iran. When my parents lived there were breweries and there were distilleries and there were beautiful vineyards. So when I visited Iran, obviously all of that was gone. And when they go back to Iran, it doesn't even look like the country that they grew up in. So it's a very layered situation, but it goes back thousands of years.
Yeah, and something that's a little bit more peculiar about this specific brewer to brewer conversation here at All About Beer is that both of us have Iranian heritage. Your parents are from Iran and moved to the States, and my dad fled Iran, so I'm half Iranian. And one of the only places in Iran I've actually been as a child when I could still go there was actually Shiraz. So our families are from, well, the same region, and I saw none of that. I didn't even, nothing. Did you go and did
Right.
like,
I did. Yeah, I traveled. I went to Shiraz. We would go for like the summers. So we would stay for like 3 months at a
mhm.
time. And I just remember it being so hot. And, as a woman, I had to be covered up. And my mom, actually, now I'm so happy she did this, but she like dragged us to Persepolis and to Esfahan. And she made us travel throughout the country. And me and my brother were complaining the entire time. Um, but now looking back, I'm so happy that she did because after those teenage years, I have not been back since because my parents did become incredibly political. And now that I work in alcohol and during some of the past movements like the Green Movement, the Woman Life Freedom Movement, I was
Yeah.
very politically involved. And so I am scared to go back at this point until the regime has fallen. So I'm grateful to her, even through all of the complaining from the heat, that I was able to experience some of the most beautiful and historic sites in the world during that time.
I'm pretty jealous, but obviously I was a kid, but I've spoken to my cousin
Hmm.
who's managed to escape around, fiercely intelligent young woman, PhD in chemistry. So that makes it easier to get out of the regime because you could get a researcher's visa. But she told me that in Iran, alcohol consumption is just it is actually everywhere. You just need to know how where to look. And of course, I was a child. I didn't have any interest in beer back then, so I didn't know where to look, and I saw none of it. But how old were you when you went, and did you actually taste some beer or something that was homebrewed, anything of the sort in Iran?
I, I didn't drink it because I was like 16, 17, 18 around those years. But everyone else was drinking it.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, because they were making it. They all make their own alcohol, beer, like this kind of like arak sagi, which is kind of almost like a moonshine. And they all know very well how to make their own alcohol. It's just being done underground. Now, listen, if you get caught doing that, you can get fined, go to jail. If you get caught doing that several times, you can be executed
yeah,
for
that's
that.
death.
That's happened
Yeah,
before too. Yeah, so it's a dangerous game, but listen, they're definitely doing it. And I've gotten many DMs from people directly in Iran who have sent me pictures of their homebrew systems, and they have shown me pictures throughout the process of making beer, what the final beer looks like. And it is amazing what they are able to do with such limited resources, making their own contraptions and how they gather like hops and what yeast they use. It's actually unbelievable.
Yeah, I guess like that's a pretty wild position. Exactly. Now the conversation is going where I want to go because you might be one of the few people in the world that have a direct line to the something that is akin to the origin of beer, as close as it get to the actual source right now. That's pretty wild, Sarah.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think so. I just hope that people can start to see that the history is there and it exists, and the people and our history is not what the rulers are. Like I read something
Mhm.
earlier this week that says the beauty of Iran is in its people and not its rulers. And I really wholeheartedly agree with that. And the culture is ours, and the tradition is ours, and the history is ours. And you don't want that to be erased.
Yeah, and I guess your beers, um historically so, and with the ingredients that you use, I know a little bit about it because you brought them to my fest in Denmark,
Hmm.
but I haven't really experienced the full scope. And I see your beers. I was actually pretty disappointed when I found out that the Tahdig beer was just an Easter prank. But like some of the inspiration that you get from these homebrewers around, do that actually turn into beer, or is that something of your own making, of your family's history? How did these beers come to happen? Like the sumac goes and the blue salt pilsner, and tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, every single one of the beers that I brewed has some sort of inspiration or influence from the region and my family. So, for example, the blue salt beer, the blue salt comes directly from Semnan, Iran, where my grandfather made beer. A lot of Iranians will put a pinch of salt in their beer before they drink it. And that was the idea behind brewing with the blue salt, just to kind of like take that extra step away. And then I have a Nowruz beer, which Nowruz is the Persian New Year, and that's
Mhm.
called New Day IPA. And I incorporated three of our most symbolic items from the New Year in that beer, which is apples, sumac, and wheat. And so that's how the recipe kind of developed from that, was to incorporate these symbolic items. For Yalda, I have a pomegranate beer. I also actually this year made a watermelon version. And for Yalda, the holiday, you're supposed to eat red fruits that are supposed to bring you like health, for the through the winter months, and to keep you, um, without to keep sickness away. And so that's where the
Yeah.
idea behind the watermelon, which is very symbolic for Yalda, and the pomegranate, which is very symbolic. So all of them have definitely a deeper meaning. The sour cherry is something that my grandfather brewed with because they were growing it in their yard in Shiraz. And they had this beautiful, Shiraz is kind of like known as the Garden City. And so
Mhm.
there are beautiful gardens there, but also a lot of people have their own gardens. And so he grew um, uh, he grew pomegranates, he grew sour cherries, and I knew he used those in his beers. And also, it's known as the city of orange blossom trees. And there's a specific season when you can actually smell the orange blossoms in the street. And I made an orange blossom IPA that was like our Shirazi Garden IPA. So they definitely all have some sort of meaning or connection to my family or to the homeland.
That's amazing. Um, so tell us a little bit more about your brewery, because well, when I reached out to you, and have you come to Denmark, it was actually way later than to discover that back home beer is older than Stepping Stone Brewery, that is only 3.5 years old. You're a single
Yeah.
mother in New York. You deeply professional background. Suddenly you decide to go full time into beer. When did this happen, and how did it happen, and how and where do you brew? Like, tell us a little bit about like the low practical stuff of back home beer.
Yeah, so I started this now for like 4.5 years ago. And in New York, it's the real estate is very expensive. So I started out just doing mostly like what they call like the gypsy style or contract style brewing. And I found a brewery in Staten Island. They offered to rent some tanks to me, and that's how it started. And it was just an easy, cost-effective way to do it and get my
Yeah.
brand out there and just to see how people respond to it, you know? I mean, you just never know. My cans had the Persian calligraphy on it, and they looked very Persian, and you don't know how people are going to respond to it. So that was a way for me to kind of get my foot in the door, and it ended up growing very organically. And now I have a larger facility that I brew beer out of upstate, as well as another facility in Garnerville, New York. So right now I've been doing that, but for like the past year and a half, I've also at the same time been looking for a space to be able to build my own production facility and tap room and to have like Persian street food. Not there yet because I haven't found a space yet, but it's certainly in the works, and it's certainly the end goal for me.
So you're from New York or you're from Georgia?
I've been in New York for 21 years, but I grew up in Georgia.
All right. So this
Yeah.
new fantastic, because I've just been in Atlanta, and let me say what a beautiful city, and very soulful, very music, very beer, and very food. So this
Yes.
dream of yours, is it only limited to New York, or is Atlanta in the question as
So
well? Or let me just ask the third thing, and this is deeply personal for me as well. Would you ever consider, perhaps, if there's some crazy person in the north of Europe that would join you for this venture to actually open one day a brewery in Iran?
I would love to. If that was an option, I would do it tomorrow, 100%. I would love to take back home. That's the dream, you know. But for now, uh, I would open something here in Brooklyn. It's where I live. You know, my son,
Yeah.
he goes to school here. He can't uproot him. He's now going into like he'll be going into eighth grade. So it's hard to just kind of uproot your life and go somewhere else. So I am hoping to open something in Brooklyn, but the beer is going to be expanding beyond New York. It's already in the state of Georgia. We're in DC. This year, my goal is to also get into Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. So that's in the works. So certainly have plans for expansion on the beer, and then hoping to get a brewery space in Brooklyn along the way. And eventually, after the fall of the regime, would love to take back home to Iran for sure.
There's a lot of plans for us in the future, and just I've
Yeah.
never really asked you because we've never had the time to, but just taking a little bit, a little step back, how did people actually respond to the first Iranian beers that came out?
Listen, I think New York City is a great place it's such a diverse city, and people are culturally more aware of what's happening. I would never launch something like this in Alabama, or yeah, I probably would never have even started this in the state of Georgia where I grew up. But I think this was the right city. Now, I in terms of the people in New York, they were great. Online, that was a little bit of a different story. I definitely was like, I got all the comments, some of them hilarious, but also like, wow, that's kind of
Tell
like fucked up, But it would be like, everything from like your terrace beer, falafel beer, like Muslims don't drink, you're a Muslim, you're Islamist, where's your hijab? That was a big one. Like, just like anything that you could think of in terms of that. And it was so much having to educate people, but I have really seen a shift of like those kind of comments to now
Mhm.
being like other now people in the community that we've kind of built online in the platform will be like, and not Iranians, they'll actually stick up for me when somebody writes a comment like that, and they'll be like, actually, the birthplace of beer was Mesopotamia, and the
Yeah.
Sumerians were the original brewers, and women were the original brewers. And I'm like, yes, like everything I've been trying to get out in the world is actually slowly working. So it definitely the narrative has shifted for sure, and people can understand now that there's a history there, and that the people are not its rulers. And although it has been prohibited, the people still drink. And a lot of people are like, yeah, I grew up with Iranians. They drink a shit ton of beer, or they drink a lot. And I'm
just
like,
just
yeah,
food in general, Sarah. Please, come on. just food in
yeah,
general.
but
Everything that is consumed.
yeah, exactly. We're like all about eating and drinking. That's all we care about. I mean, that's how I base my travels still today. I'm like, where is going to give me some good food, and something good to drink. So, like, we're just a culture about that. So, for me, it's been nice to see kind of a shift. I know it's like very localized in my own community, but I've also seen now other companies pop up, like an aperitif, Iranian aperitif, and Iranian like moonshine called SAG that's here in New York, and they're doing really well. So I feel like, that they're seeing that it's acceptable, it's kind of motivating other people to do the same thing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's
Do
it's been
you
nice to see for sure.
do you think? Because I'm just sitting here thinking, okay, so you're a single mother, woman in a, let's just be honest, male dominated industry, and
Hmm.
minority background, and you chose to promote beers that are of Middle Eastern slash unknown heritage. Well, like
Hmm.
it's just you chose life on the hard mode, didn't you?
Yeah,
And
for
also
sure.
craft
Yeah.
beer. I as a person, I tend to just kind of fall into things. I fell into fell in love with my wife. I fell into the city where we live. I fell into parenthood. Did you actively choose this very badass hard path that you're threading upon, or did you
No.
just kind of fall into it as well? Like
I fell into
how did you
all of it.
choose?
I fell into all of it. Yeah, I feel like I didn't see any of this happening for me at all. I mean, so I feel like it really started out as a hobby. I think that if COVID didn't happen, I never would have started this business because it was really like
Hmm.
a project I was doing at home and just sending bottles to Atlanta, and my family was trying it there. I would take it in my suitcase when I would travel. And I think COVID kind of made me reevaluate some things. I was able to stay home with my son and have more flexibility and have my own schedule versus working for someone else. And um, for me, that was a big part of it too. So I think a lot of things had to happen for this to end up being the position I'm in now. But I also now at this point wouldn't want it any different.
It's kind of like a fate kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. So many things had to line up. But it's funny because when I first started, I was trying to look for a contract brewing space. And when I would explain the concept, I was met with like, this woman is insane. Like, what is she trying to do? We don't understand what she's doing. Like I would get ghosted by so many different places. Like, it was just so funny. And then I met these guys at Flagship Brewery, which is in Staten Island, which I don't know if you know much about the way New York City is, but the borough of Staten Island is very like blue collar. Like the demographic is different than like Brooklyn or Manhattan. It's very Caucasian. And so it's just so funny. We laugh about it now that like they're the guys that were like, sure, we don't, they were kind of like, we're not sure what you're explaining, but we'll give it a shot, you know? So
Just
they gave me a chance and I went in there and it's been, they were great partners to help me launch this thing off the ground for sure.
yeah, it really just takes those one people to give you that one break going into this business.
Exactly.
Have you
Exactly.
you talked about before sharing like you share your passions for Iranian beer, showing people that you do it a success. Have you actively given? It said you doing animal welfare, but it's just not focused on the humanitarian goodness of your heart right now, but just actively on the beer. Have you promoted or helped some maybe people that were on the fence about going into beer? Have you done any of those like inspirational stories that you want to share? Something that was just amazing to you and someone made it or not?
I mean, I think there's been a lot of women in general that have just reached
Hmm.
out for advice. Um, and I've definitely been kind of like a sounding board in that sense. And for me, I don't know, I'm not a competitive person. I just feel like there's room for everybody in this world. So I also think that there was a woman recently. I mean, she's Iranian. She's not in beer, but she has a bakery. And she actually, a lot of people have reached out because of my Kickstarter. We raised the most money from any brewery ever. I raised $125,000. And a lot of people reached out for advice on that, like how they can raise money. And so I feel like I have definitely helped a lot of people in that way and been like, don't make these
Yeah.
mistakes that I did. I actually could have raised even more money. I wish I had done this, like do this. And I've really laid out kind of like a framework for people who have wanted to raise money because I did some things wrong and I had to play catch up during the process where I was raising money through Kickstarter. And I was like, don't make these same mistakes. So I think that for sure. Yeah, I mean, listen, I did not work in the beer industry, so I didn't know anybody in the community. And I think they were also like they were like, who is this woman? And I was also like, who are these people? Like we had no idea who each other were. And I think it doesn't traditionally start that way. I think most people work in a brewery and then they have a decision where they want to make beer and they want to have their own labels. So it was just a different trajectory for me. Um, but in some ways it helped me, and then in some ways the community also, they really embraced me and they were incredibly helpful and they advocated for me and supported me, and they were really happy to have somebody who didn't look like what most people look like in beer. So I owe a lot to them too.
Sounds amazing. And I was just in here thinking quite selfishly. Do you want to share? Because this is also a brewer to brewer talk, and the podcast is partly for brewers. Like for all of us simple people that haven't reached out to you yet for your great ideas on how to raise, what was that, 120 something thousand dollars? How did
Yeah,
you do that, Sarah? How did
125,000.
you do that? How
So
did you do
yeah,
that?
I mean, I went to Kickstarter, which is kind of like a, you don't give up equity. Basically, you just raise money from your own community of
Yeah.
people and you offer up rewards. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, I just like launched the Kickstarter without doing a proper build up. And you're supposed to build up for like months and get people really excited for it and release certain things. And I didn't do any of that. I just like started the Kickstarter. So what happened was I had to basically like catch up the entire month and it still worked out. We met our goal, we exceeded our goal. But I think if I had known that, it would have been a lot better. But basically, I think it's good to start building your online community. They're the ones that are going to support you. So even before you want to start your business, which is what I did, like a year before, I was just kind of showing my home brewing and I was showing pictures of like my son washing bottles in my kitchen, and I was having this, and then I would show the process of like getting the New York State license to sell beer. So my advice for anybody who's starting out is like, let people in on that side of things too, because they
Hmm.
kind of grow with you and then
Yeah.
they start to cheer from you and they cheer for you and they want to root for you and they want you to do well because they've seen the struggle of trying to build something for a long time. So I think that that was important in establishing a connection with the community as well.
Yeah. And this is actually one of my pet peeves is how much of what you put out and still put out is actual beer posts and how much of it is what you say slice of life, what's going on in your lives
Yeah.
and the stories that you want to tell. Like it, I mean, I think there's really something there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you have to have a good mix. People are going to get sick of any one thing. Even me, I will post about Iran and then I'm like, okay, people are kind of like over me talking about Iran right now. So I need to throw in some, I'm like, I need to throw in some beer pictures, or like they need to see Milo or they need to hear about this. Like I really try to show them every part of my life and what I'm thinking about. So, but I also try to make sure that I don't overdo it in any one thing. And I think just showing beer all the time, it gets boring and you lose the connection a little bit with people, and you want to really just want to see also what's behind the scenes and what's behind the beer.
Yeah, it's a whole thing, and I actually quite agree with you. I have this really amazing friend, also brewer. He's native Palestinian, and when the war in Palestine happened, his Instagram
Hmm.
just turned to non-stop save Palestine. Oh, look at all the war atrocities, all that. And remember thinking to myself, ugh. I it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
everything. I love this dude. He's been one of my friends for years, and I almost got to the point where I was telling dude, leave it, man. But then
Yeah.
suddenly, life happens, and it's war in Iran, and I find myself posting about the war atrocities in Iran, and it dawns on me,
Hmm.
if you're not interested in this or actively someone who cares about this specific topic, we might just end up alienating people. And I remember, actually, that was you. I texted you, "What can we do, Sarah? What's going on? There's war in Iran. How are we supposed to feel?" And I believe you said to me, "Well, Daniel, you have to continue living your life and just being the happy you that you are, because everything else is not sustainable." And that was just beautiful, Sarah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, this has been going on for 47 years now. It's not just things are not going to change overnight. So we have to be able to basically, like I always tell people this, I'm like, you have to go into it for the long haul, and you have to
Mm.
take care of yourself, and you have to go on living your life. And even though it's on your mind all the time, you still have to take care of all the other things. And so it's similar thing to online for my Instagram, where it's like we post about Iran, but we also have to keep posting about the beer because I have to keep selling beer and I have to be able to pay my rent,
Yeah.
or like I have to be able to do those things. It's just not sustainable otherwise.
Do you find it hard to mix the well, putting out your various positive stories and with the like jumping from serious war, crime, atrocities back into, well, warm food, holidays and beer and happiness, partying, gastronomy, making that mix? I find it personally to be very hard to do. Like, how do you manage?
It's so hard. And I like don't even believe myself when I'm doing it because I'm posting stuff about beer and then I'm like posting, oh, here's like fan photos with all of our beer and it's like all these people drinking it. And then I'm like, God, I'm posting this, but there's like people dying in my, in my
Yeah,
country. Like it's such a like it really is like a mind fuck because but I mean, there's no other way. You have to like compartmentalize these things because
yeah,
this is not on everyone else's mind. I mean, we have a huge community of people, and the majority of them are not Iranian who are buying this beer and who have supported and advocated for me. So for them, Iran is like not on their mind all the time. So I
of
have
course
to
not.
be able to speak to yeah, like I have to speak to those people as well. They are the people that have supported me from the beginning. So, um, I have to post photos about the beer and I have to do that as a reminder to go buy the beer so that people go out and buy it and still support. And I also donate money to like two different organizations, one for like people, one that's an organization that helps food insecure communities. And then now I also donate to Iran Rights. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I have to do this because it's going to raise money for these two organizations, So that's
Yeah.
another thing too that keeps me motivated, where I'm like, sometimes I get into a mood where I'm like, none of this matters. Who cares? People are dying. Like, I'm so done. But then I remember that, like, no, actually, you can make a difference and you can donate money to these organizations and they'll make a difference. So I can't just be like, fuck everything? So that gets me out of it a little bit.
I think on that note, on the we can't fuck everything, I think we're gonna
Yeah,
have a short
exactly.
commercial break here, and we are going to take a short break for this message, and then come right back for more of these conversations with Zahra Tabatabai.
Is your fermentation data still a mystery? Upgrade to Senos. Their in-tank sensors provide real-time predictive analytics so you can catch issues early, save your batches, and grow your profit margins. Brew smarter and scale your brewing operations at senos.com. That's Senos.com. And if you're going to the Craft Brewers Conference in April, get a free Senos demo and enter to win an iPad at their booth number 2106.
Tim here again from Berkeley Yeast. Our Tropics yeast is based on a London ale strain, but we added a new gene to its genome that codes for a unique thiol-releasing enzyme. The enzyme converts the precursors in barley to free thiols that smell and taste like passionfruit and grapefruit. It's super clean. No off flavors like burnt rubber or other sulfurous notes, just tropical aromatics. You don't have to do anything unusual either, like mash hopping. Just pitch dry Tropics and supercharge your hazy IPA.
Malteurop has long been a pillar of North American malting, and they're growing to meet the needs of the modern brewer. Their brand new warehouse expansion at the Winona, Minnesota Malt House marks a new chapter in their commitment to service and reliability. With increased capacity and optimized logistics at the Winona hub, Malteurop is delivering the quality you expect with the speed you need. Discover the Malteurop difference at malteuropmaltingco.com.
All right, welcome back. Sarah, we were talking about
Right.
the duality of what we put out on SoMe and social media. It's called SoMe in Europe. I heard you say socials over there in the States, but
Yeah.
coming back to the point, the duality of that and the sustainability of dealing with something that is really hard, but also trying to do something good. Um, I think you're really onto something there, and just to reflect how correct you actually are, I'm gonna quote or try to quote from one of the most beloved people that I've ever heard speak in the world, of course, being the wizard Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. And his point
Okay.
is that you're not going to defeat evil by with this great weapon of power. You're going to defeat evil by the small acts of kindness of everyday people. In the Lord of the Rings, the hobbits, but I think in everyday New York and in the conversation about beer and Iran through back home beer. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I do feel like the little work that I do on social media about Iranians, it humanizes people, right? So that the people who are not Iranian and who support me start to see Iranians as human. Like they don't just, when they hear about bombs being dropped on Iran, it's not just something that means nothing to them, right? They're like, oh, actually, I know this Iranian woman and she probably has family there. And so I think that those little things are very important for sure.
Mhm. Like something that just happens over food and people share that beer and the memories and I really hope it's some sort of an eye opener for a lot of people over there.
I think so. And oh, I had a thought, but now I forget. But basically, I think that food and drink are oftentimes the entry point for a lot of people to be exposed to a culture that they know nothing about, right? I mean,
Yeah,
especially in New York, like you go to Chinatown for cheap rice rolls, like you really learn a lot about the culture and the people that way. And it's just an easy, accessible way to do that. So for me, I do think that I have a larger duty than to just sell beer. I want to kind of have make sure that there is some culture and story behind it because it's an entry point and people are consuming it. And so why not give them something more than just the beer?
true. Yeah, and perhaps that the massive turning point might just show up when you get that physical brewery and tap room with Persian food. And I'm just curious
Exactly.
because I'm not from the States, I'm not from New York, but if there is someone out there listening to this podcast who is perhaps from New York, would you be interested in partnering up, or is this an exclusive Sarah only project that you want to fly solo with? Are you actively looking for partners or anything of the sort into going into this dream of making a brew pub of sorts?
Yeah. I'm definitely looking for investors for sure. I raised a little bit of money through the Kickstarter, obviously, but then I also did like a friends and family round. But I need more money to be able to go further. So for sure, I'm looking for investors that can help me bring this vision to life for sure.
Yeah, because I feel like when we're talking about um, entrepreneurship, making businesses from the ground up, you have a great idea, you have the proof of concept, going into the market strategy, and then it feels like also going forward in this conversation that you've made it pretty big on a lot of things, and you've proven that there is a market for your product out there. So I guess the like the next big splash is what's awaiting you on the horizon.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I appreciate you saying that. I think there's still a lot of work that can be done, but I do
I'm
think
guessing.
that this is yeah, I do think that this is the next natural step for me. And I also want people to be able to come to back home brewery instead of always directing people to other places and restaurants to have the beer, which is
Mm.
great to have that as an option. But, the Persian people, we are very hospitable and we like to host. And that's always been my role too, both in my family and with my friend group. I, that's, I love to be the host. So, this is kind of like hosting on even a larger level. And I want to show people the hospitality of Iranians because unfortunately, people cannot travel to Iran and they don't know what it's like unless they have like a close Iranian friend. So this was another part of for me of like showing our culture and showing our people and a different side than what maybe people see on the news or media.
That's pretty amazing. I'm sitting here kind of snickering to myself because it's just I close my eyes when you speak and I imagine coming to your tab room and there'd be no chairs
Yeah.
because you just have everyone sit on the floor. And could you?
Yeah,
Because obviously I know
exactly.
what's that about and why I'm laughing, but can you just share a little bit
Uh,
about what's all that about?
the sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's what when I went to my family's house in Shiraz, that's what how we ate every single meal was on the floor. Like, and it's just so funny, but it is more intimate. It's like a more intimate sitting setting like that. And you do feel closer to people when you're sitting on the floor with them. And it is like more grounded almost. I do want to have a section, like a small, you know what a corsi is? It's like basically you sit and you put you're kind of on the ground but not really there, it's almost under this like heated thing, and but it is lower to the ground, and I want to have kind of like communal seating in the brewery too that's like that. Obviously we're going to have tables and chairs, but I also want to have kind of like this cozy corner where people
Yeah.
are seated almost like a bench, like a where you take off your shoes and you have to sit in this area. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but that's the vision for sure.
I think you should take a minute and just try to explain because I know what you're talking about, but the people out there ain't, and it's quite amazing actually. And I'll try to help. So, when I went to Iran, I we sat on these like raised dais. Is it called dais? Something raised places with
Mhm.
a sort of carpet on, and there was this little tiny table where food and drinks were put out, and there was room for legs underneath. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's almost like you're sitting like with your legs crossed underneath a table, but you're sitting on the ground. But it's like an elevated table. And that's where, you would have your beer, your food, whatever there. But your legs, you are still sitting underneath this table with your legs crossed.
I would just, I would absolutely love to go to a bar with that kind of theme. That would be wild because you're sitting there.
Right?
I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
people are so close to you. You don't have that the table between you. You don't have to
Right.
sit and balance in a chair. Like no matter who you are and how close you're sitting on a chair, you're always sitting in your kind of your own little booth. But you're sitting there right next to people. For people that are listening,
Exactly.
I'm thinking this would be like when you go to kindergarten and you sit and you sit in the patty cake name circles with your children on the first day and you're just trying to That's the kind of intimacy there, and that
Right.
plus beer tap room, that just
Yeah.
sounds like an absolute mad fest. It just
I know. It's like it's cozy and it's
yes,
intimate and it's like we're all kind of shoulder to shoulder. And I think like, then you throw in a backgammon board and a deck of cards and it's like you could just be there all day.
yeah, and just not even going into music, food, culture, arts, or beer, but
Hmm.
that might just be like the seating arrangements. That might be the biggest contribution we can do to partying. Just talking about it in this combo,
Hmm.
it just dawned on me. I do have a bar. I might just implement that.
You should. I think it's so cool. It really is. And it's so cozy. And I feel like yeah, I think people will really like that. It's different. But it really does remind me of back home.
So I've got this friend who's he's got a craft beer bar, so we're friends, of course. I'm a beer maker, and his place is often used for like first dates because it's a little dingy, not a dive bar, but kind of the same comfy vibe, just not divey, but with the little wine bottles with candles on the tables, and imagine like having a place like that with these kind of Persian mood and comfort for first dates. It's just my mind is
I know.
spinning.
I know. I know. Me too. I have such I really have a clear vision of what I want it to look like. So I'm really excited to be able to at one day bring it to life.
Yeah. Um, anything else you feel like sharing about your journey or where your beer? Um, we're about 50 minutes in, and I think we could spare a good 10 minutes more, or if you got something.
No, I mean, I feel like we covered so much of the what I like to talk about, which is Iran and the inspiration behind what I'm doing, and also kind of the future that I see for back home. And I'm just really grateful for so many people in the community who have given me an opportunity to like bring this to life and have advocated for me and supported me and told their friends because it really started out as like a lot of Iranians were super excited about it. But then they told their friends who were not Iranian, and then that's how it all grew. I mean, I've never had a marketing budget or a PR budget or anything like that. So it has all been word of mouth through people who have just been inspired by what I'm doing and wanted to help me out. And I really owe this to the community for sure.
That is exactly how I know about you. So I was standing at my own tap takeover at a random bar in Denmark, Northern Europe, and this American woman comes up to me and she goes, "Well, Daniel, that's a very interesting story you have there. Do you know about Zahra Tabatabai?" And I go, no. And then
Wow.
she just flat out tells me your story, and it took me half an hour, and I contacted you, and you flew over. But all these things, what's
Yeah.
been said and done. You love dogs. You care about food. You are very much a beer person, and
Hmm.
very kind hearted. Um,
Thank you.
so the last question I have for you, I've read somewhere. I think I've read somewhere, maybe the Washington Post or something. It's kind of a joke question that you're an insane driver. I like there must be something detrimental to this amazing person that you are, that you've driven around a dingy, bumped up car, bringing beers around in New York, being a menace to the streets. Tell me
Oh
what
my
this is about.
God. If I can I just tell you what is going on with my car right now? First of all, I'm going to just say this. Okay, I have a lot of comments about this. I have a very banged up car, but none of that is my fault. Like not zero. One of them, I was parked and a biker ran into me. Okay, the biker ran into me while I was parked. That was one. Then
Let's
the
imagine I
other
believe
one,
you.
yes, listen, you're only going to hear one side of the story, so you have to believe me. But the other thing is, being parked on the street in Brooklyn is not easy. So I got hit while I was parked another time, huge like dent in the car. Then a week ago, a moving truck, okay, massive moving truck crashed right into my car. The
No.
entire back and side is completely done for. The super of my building was like banging on my door. He's like, your car, your car. So I was like half asleep and I went outside and my car is completely destroyed. It's been totaled. So I haven't had a
Oh,
car for
oh.
months. It's like just there. But like the thing is that in New York City, you have to be somewhat of like an aggressive driver to get, and especially when you really do. You have to be somewhat aggressive and a bit bold because I also was delivering my own beer in my own Prius, a little Prius for like 2 years.
Yeah.
I had to literally just pull to the side of the road, block traffic, and run inside with two cases and just apologize to people who were like stuck behind me, being like, sorry. And there's no other way. There's just no other way to do it in New York. So I feel like I am a good driver, but I would like to say that I'm a bit aggressive and bold, but it's because I have to be in New York City to survive here as a delivery person.
Well, I've heard many New Yorkers say that you have to be a little bit aggressive and bold to be a New Yorker in general. So I'm not really sure that
Yes.
I succeeded in finding just one detrimental fact about you, because it seems like it's weirdly some sort of an advantage to, well, this amazing person that you are. And unless you really
I can say
can't
this.
imagine it's you. What?
No, okay, I can tell you one detrimental fact because and you have been privy to this for sure, which is I am very, very spread thin. So I miss emails. I miss
Yeah.
times I'm supposed to be on a call because I'm printing something that literally today I was printing something that has to be submitted before 5 o'clock. So as soon as I get off the call with you, I'm going to be doing that. It's 4:15 right now. So I have 45 minutes. But like this is that. So I would say that like maybe I'm not the most efficient with my time, or maybe I don't have enough time, or I take on too much. But certainly, I have to ask for forgiveness a lot because of this like this is what I have to deal with on a daily basis, and I try to do as much as I can, but oftentimes I miss things and I'm late for things, and I'm sorry for anyone listening who has ever experienced that, which is probably most everyone in my life.
Yeah, well, Sarah, it's most pretty much every single brewer out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I think,
yeah. And to top it off, I've got now an almost 13-year-old with an attitude problem, so
oh,
I have to also deal with that in the mix. So it's
yes.
just I always give people a lot of grace, maybe because I hope that people will give me grace too.
Well, if they don't give you grace, you should just point out that the fact that, well, you're the one making the beer. So like that
Right.
usually saves my end of things. But if
That's
those were the
true. That's
words,
true.
I will wrap this conversation up and say thank you
Thank
for being
you.
part of the show, Sarah.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Now, for everyone out there listening, Sarah will be back on the next episode of this show as the host, having a conversation with a brewer of her own choosing. That will be on the air next week, so make sure you tune in for that. And also, a reminder: visit allaboutbeer.com and follow on social media at allaboutbeer. To support journalism in the beer space, check out allaboutbeer.com/support. I'm Daniel True of Stepstone Brewery in Denmark. Thank you for listening to the Brewer to Brewer podcast.
Is your fermentation data still a mystery? Upgrade to Senos. Their in-tank sensors provide real-time predictive analytics so you can catch issues early, save your batches, and grow your profit margins. Brew smarter and scale your brewing operations at Senos.com. That's Sennos.com. And if you're going to the Craft Brewers Conference in April, get a free Senos demo and enter to win an iPad at their booth number 2106.
Tim here again from Berkeley Yeast. My favorite part about Tropics in a dried format is that it makes it easy to use Tropics more like an ingredient than a yeast strain. It's a great tool for turning tropical flavors up or down. Tropics on its own makes big notes of passionfruit and grapefruit, which is great for a lot of recipes, but sometimes you want to dial that thiol character down. Easy. You can just co-pitch at different rates with your house strain. If you want to dial it up, especially if you're using a pretty aggressive hop bill, then just add Tropics Boost. It's pure precursors dissolved in water and ethanol. Go to berkeleyyeast.com to find out how to turn the thiol dial to exactly where you want it.
Malteurop has long been a pillar of North American malting, and they're growing to meet the needs of the modern brewer. Their brand new warehouse expansion at the Winona, Minnesota Malt House marks a new chapter in their commitment to service and reliability. With increased capacity and optimized logistics at the Winona hub, Malteurop is delivering the quality you expect with the speed you need. Discover the Malteurop difference at malteuropmaltingco.com.